Welcome to Aging Together, a podcast dedicated to exploring the challenges and opportunities of caring for our aging communities. I'm your host, Dr. Pooja Ashok Patel, an occupational therapist with specialty certifications in geriatric care, dementia, and fall prevention. In this podcast, I interview guests who are experts in their fields or can share their experiences with caregiving. Together with the guest speakers, we dive into a wide range of topics including health and wellness, care planning, caregiving, and more. I hope you'll join me on this journey. Let's navigate aging together. Hello and welcome back to Aging Together. Happy New Year. I hope you all had a fantastic holiday season and are excited for what's to come in 2024. As I closed out the season last year in 2023, I mentioned that we're moving away from the weekly episodes to monthly episodes that will be published on the 15th of each month with a guest speaker. Today's guest speaker is Dr. Maria Cristina of Sheehan Health Wellness. Dr. Maria Cristina is an expert on aging as we know it. She's got an extensive and impressive bio, so bear with me here. Her journey began at age 69 when she found herself aging typically, slowing down, gaining weight, and feeling that the decline she was experiencing was inevitable. At the age of 69, she stepped away from her academic career, where she served as a CEO for 20 years, and into the world of fitness. Today, at the age of 77, she is a natural body fitness competitor, winning multiple gold and silver medals in bikini, swimsuit, and sports model categories in international competitions since 2017. She became a health coach and a fitness trainer, coaching women over 50, both online and in person. She is a sought-after speaker for audiences who want to improve their health and turn back their clock. She enjoys speaking on wellness and longevity, as well as working with executives and their teams to foster healthy lifestyle habits to enhance their health and improve productivity. She has been featured on the Aging and Awesome TV series and now hosts fitness retreats in Central America for women wanting to reclaim their bodies and energize their health. Her next one is in Panama coming up next month in February. Her programs feature how to transform your thinking about aging while mastering the movement that's right for you, along with the meal plan that is sustainable to achieve your ideal health goals. She is the best example of her own philosophy, which is we can get stronger with age. She believes adults, especially women over 55, should never expect to be frail and dependent as the decades advance. Now it's her mission to help others who wish to age well. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Maria Cristina to our show. Hello and welcome to the show, Dr. Maria Cristina. Thank you so much for joining me today.
It's a pleasure to be with you.
So, wow, Maria, what an impressive and exciting journey you've had. I've been following your competition posts for a while now, actually, and it's simply amazing to see everything you've accomplished in a relatively short amount of time. I left out the story that you shared with me about not being an athlete prior to all this because I thought it would be fun for you to share it with us yourself. And so do you mind sharing that?
Well, I am in a place today that I never would have imagined years ago. I was the most unathletic kid ever. I was the last kid to be picked for a team because I couldn't run and I was a little overweight. I barely passed the physical education requirement in college. In those days, way back when, you had to have a physical education requirement to get your degree. And I barely passed that PE course. I was just that unathletic. And so my journey is an interesting one because what it does prove is it's never too late to start your journey. And I didn't really turn things around until 69 as I was stepping out of a career of 45 years in education. And I was watching my own health just go down the drain as well as my colleagues as well. We were having triple heart bypass, cardiovascular issues, and even deaths. So there were, 4 or 5 of my colleagues over the course of my time as a president that I saw pass away literally on the job. And I didn't want that to be me.
Yeah, that sounds very traumatic. And I can see where that can be, unfortunately, very eye opening, right? But also, fortunately, because you can turn your life around as you have shown us. So, I mentioned in your bio, that you primarily work with women over 50. So, why 50 plus? What sparked that interest and your work specifically targeting that group?
I'm targeting that group specifically because 50 gets hard. And we have this view of what 50 is going to be. Usually it's not a very good one. So at 30, we're thinking, oh my gosh, 50 is going to be so old. At 40, we're really getting worried about it. And by 50, it's like, it's here. And so then, we take our mindset to a negative place. Okay. It's hard anyway for women because our bodies are really changing at that time. And weight comes on, there's our hormonal issues. And then we start thinking, well, maybe this is just it. This is just it. It's just the hot flashes are going to come. We're going to get overweight. It's going to get tired. We're going to get older looking. That's just it. And that's what starts the spiral, or the downward spiral. Because if you think that that's the way it's going to be, that's the way it's going to be. And you're not going to pull yourself out of that. So I love to say to women, maybe your age, hey, don't be afraid. There's some things you can do. And once you do those things, the 50s are great. Yeah. And the 60s are great. And the 70s are even better.
Yeah, that's true. The earlier you start, the better your later years are going to be, right?
Absolutely. What you do today is going to impact how you live tomorrow.
That's a great sentence. I'm going to use that as our opening line. So, what would you say in this work you've done? What are some of the key myths that you hear very often in this line of work, right? You kind of mentioned like people think you hit 50s and then it's over and it's all downhill from there. And so, of course, that's a big one. But what are kind of some other ones related to health and wellness when it comes to adults and older adults that you've navigated? And then what are kind of the facts that offset that?
Okay, I think the big myth is, other than I'm too old and this is the way it's going to be, is that it's going to be too hard. I'm going to have to spend all day in the gym. And I don't want to do that because I'm going to get giant muscles. Okay, these are all the myths and the things that stop us from taking the first step, especially women, because we see maybe a photo of oversized women with hulky muscles. Well, that is rare exception. You are not going to get huge muscles and a masculine looking face and physique. You just are not. It's not going to happen. But that's kind of the stereotype of strength training. And muscle development is critical. And we don't really talk about that, but I love to talk about it.
Yeah.
Because it's so important. So can I talk about it?
Yeah, of course.
Okay. So there's this book that's out right now that I'm absolutely loving. And it's by Dr. Gabriel Lyon. It's called Forever Strong. Dr. Lyon is called the muscle-centric doctor. And what she's talking about is that if we do not put time and attention to strength training to develop muscle, that is going to be our downfall as we age. And what she's saying is all the research, she has about 25 years of research behind this book. And there are other researchers that are coming along in the same line of thinking that are telling us that if we develop muscle, skeletal muscle, it's going to predict not only our lifespan, but our health span. So the other thing that we worry about unnecessarily, I think, or maybe it is a necessity. We worry about getting feeble as we age. Okay. Mm-hmm. We worry about, and that's what the thing that stops us. You asked about what is in it inhibits us from doing what we should be doing. Key issue is fear that we're going to break something, fear that we're going to hurt ourselves. Okay. And the incredible issue there is if we don't, we will hurt ourselves. If we don't invest in muscle development, we are going to be weak. We're going to be at risk for falls and sprains and breaks. And if you're ever in any group of women 60 plus, that's all they're talking about because that's what's happening. Because we don't know what we should know about strength training. So all we know about is cardio, which is not enough. And if the docs, they don't have that training, so they'll tell you, well, if you're over 50, well, you're over 50 now, so you should be walking. And that's wonderful, but it's simply not enough.
Right. With my background in healthcare, something that we talk about all the time is the importance of strength training. And that's not just for adults and older adults. It starts from, when I wish I knew this when I was in college, right? Like before I learned that, strength training is the cure to like long-term health or the key to long-term health. But like back in college, I ran track, we did a lot of cardio. Like it was just more of that, okay, here's what we usually do. And even when going to the gym, it's not something that you see all the women doing typically. You see all the guys on the big machines and lifting weights and doing all these deep squats and whatever it might be, but you don't see the women doing all of this as much. And that's changing. I think it's been changing, which is really good to see. But it's so important that we kind of put this out there and encourage people the importance of strength training, like you mentioned. And so, of course, you address strength training in your work, but what are some of the more other common areas that you address with your health and wellness coaching and retreats and all of that?
Well, I love the retreat, so I hope we get a chance to talk about that. But strength training in it of itself is not enough. You just can't eat like a teenager and think it's all going to work out because it's not. And so we can't lift a couple of weights and think it's all equal. Our metabolism as we age does slow down, and we have to eat differently. So what you could do as a teenager, drop weight just like that, you can't. And you're hurting your body anyway. So the critical things that we talk about when we're talking about skeletal muscle development is what's the component in terms of nutrition that's needed. And they're very common principles. And one of the first, of course, is to avoid sugar. And we know that sugar is connected to inflammation, which is connected to every chronic disease that you may get. Sugar and flour are now referred to as the latest heroin and cocaine. That addictive, and that harmful to the body. So as we look at what the food industry has done to us, it's amazing. Which brings me to another book I want to talk about. Okay, so this one is by Vani Hari. Okay, so Vani Hari wrote this book, Feeding You Lies. Have you heard of it? Okay, so she does, what she does in this book, right? Did you know that as she was about to publish this, she got death threats against her life?
I'm sure.
Because she was exposing it. She was exposing the food industry, which does not have our health at heart. They've got the bottom line at heart. So some of the ingredients in our food is banned in other countries. So when we export, those ingredients are out, but they're in our products on our shelves today. So from their standpoint, I get it. It's a profit line that they're trying to achieve. So the product has got to stay on the shelf and be addictively tasty so that you're going to go for it. And it's going to be there long term. So you can, that's to the benefit of the food industry. The beverage industry is the same way. So years ago, I don't know, this may be before your time, but there was a big issue about how great it would be for us to have 2 glasses of red wine. Women should have 2 glasses of red wine. That's so good for your health. And it's absolutely not at all. But there's one ingredient in that red wine that is good for long-term health and longevity. It's resveratrol. But what you could get out of 2 glasses of red wine, there's more negative than any positive because the amount of that special ingredient is too minimal to ever be of benefit. So you're just hurting your body. You're not doing anything to help. But what a great marketing ploy. I mean, I think the marketing is extraordinarily seductive. It makes us want to eat that protein candy. And now you have protein candy for kids. One thing that Vani Hari does, I don't know if you've seen some of her posts, Vani Hari's posts, she's on Facebook, I think and Instagram too. And she was going through the market shelves and she's saying, I want to see what we have for children's pain. So medications for children, for headache, etc. So she picks, and there's a whole row of these medications for little kids, youngsters, okay? And then she flips the box, and it has red dye, and it has cane sugar. She lists like 4 or 5 detrimental ingredients in that painkiller for a child. So we're addicting children very early. And of course, if you look at the cereal aisles, do you believe how many colorful boxes of cereal we have enticing little kids for sugary treats for starting their day?
Yeah, the food is something that we talk about a lot. I have a lot of food sensitivities and food allergies in the States. And whenever I travel, or even if I go home to India for a while, I will eat I'll eat street food, I'll eat whatever is available. And I don't really think too much about my food insensitivities. And I'm fine. I don't get sick. I don't get bloated. I don't and it's crazy because like here, if I ate the way I eat on vacation, if I ate like that at home, I would get sick all the time and I'd be bloated all the time. And it's just the quality of the food too, right? Even the healthy foods, it's the quality of those healthy foods too, right? And so I think that's a big distinction to make about how our food in America impacts our overall health. And it starts very young.
It does now. Did you start out with a healthy meal plan when you grew up? Did you eat the sugary treats for breakfast, or did your mom say, "Hey, we're not going to do that"? How did you grow up?
It was a mix. I grew up in an immigrant household, and so we had a lot of homemade foods and snacks usually. And I grew up on Eastern medicine. And so, of course, it was all the herbal remedies. It was all the, you have a headache. Okay, we're not, do this. If you have this, you have to do this. It was never pop a pill, and that still stands true today. Like I will very rarely, if ever, take like pain medication unless it's like I gotta go to work or I have to show up somewhere and I have like a really, really chronic migraine or really bad menstrual cramps. Like I won't take pain medication. I'll sleep it off or I'll do some breath work or I'll go for a run. It's just things that can, open up your vessels and help you feel better without the medications. And so I think there was a mix of, let's say, hesitancy with Western medicine culture, which is a good thing.
Yes.
And then with food, and I grew up in a vegetarian household and a household that had no alcohol. And so it was it conditioned me to essentially live a pretty healthy lifestyle.
Absolutely. I love what you said about not taking the pills. And I think getting back to what is an inhibitor to us getting on that fitness path, it's that we are a pill popping population. Okay. And we are. And we're looking for that pill that's going to fix that thing. So we're not really ready for what do you have to do naturally to achieve that result? We're looking for right now. There are the injections to lose weight. Okay, how dangerous is that? So now there's Ozempic, and then there's another one that mirrors the same kind of thing, but it's injections daily, and people are dropping weight and thinking this is really, really the great thing because it's looking for that magic pill instead of that lifestyle that is going to sustain your health span and not addict you to something that can be harmful.
I think it's part of our short-term quick fix life that we live in the States, right?
Right. And I think the answer to that is it doesn't have to be that hard. Okay. So it's not going to be as easy as popping a pill, but that is not sustainable. What we want is something that's a sustainable journey. And I talk to my clients, it's not that hard. Here's what we can do. And so I give a whole listing of, a huge amount of possible exercises that they can do. Okay, so we can start in the morning and you have 10 kinds of stretching exercises you can do. Just pick 2, okay? Here are some strength exercises. Here's 5 or 6. Pick 1 or 2. So you never have to be bored. And I have one exercise for the upper body and I timed it yesterday with my group. 1 minute. 1 minute. Who does not have 1 minute? Who doesn't have 2 minutes? And so that's how you start your pattern, is by not making it that hard.
Yeah. You tweeze it into just your daily routine, right? That's the easiest way to do it.
Absolutely. It has to be something you can continue to do. It has to be something you like to do as well. So if someone is strength training, I always say, okay, find something else. Is it dance? Is it Pilates? Is it yoga? Whatever. But find something else that can be, an accompaniment to the strength training.
Yeah. I think that comes with time too, right? I think you have to do it long enough for it to show the change and for you then to value it enough that you like it, right? It's a process. And like, I'll be honest, I don't like to work out, but I was a dancer my whole life and I work in healthcare. And so obviously I know the importance of working out. And I was a semi athlete most of my life until after I graduated from grad school. And then I joined our US workforce and, started just not having the time and dedicated time to say, okay, every morning at this time I got to go because I had to show up to work at 7 a.m. Like, how early do you want me to wake up? And so I think even though I personally, I don't like to, I know that it's good for me. And I know that it will help me feel better. And I know that it's going to help my chronic migraines. And I know it helps my mental health. And so I think knowing that all the benefits of it and then experiencing those benefits helps people to buy into the exercise culture.
I think that's a really good point. Now, you could have, a self-discipline, all right? As a dancer, you've got that pattern, you're very disciplined. Most of us don't have that. Okay?
Right.
So we have to find an accountability structure to support us. So that could be a friend that's going to do this with us. That could be having a trainer. For me, it's having a trainer, because who gets up and says, oh, yes, I want to go and do a hard training today. But if you've got a trainer, and I've had the same trainer for 8 years, and a trainer, and now I'm a trainer, but you know the person's body, you're working with them, you know what they can do, you know how far to push them, and you know that you're not going to hurt them, okay? That's accountability when you sign up with your trainer or you get into a class. The other people know if you're not there, right? So that's an accountability factor. For me, it's two things. It's having a trainer and it's competing, okay? Because when you're competing, you are eating clean at the highest level, right? There is no margin for error. And you are in a very strict regime for a period of time, which your body really needs. And so we're hearing a lot about detoxification of our bodies and intermittent fasting and the benefit of not having a whole lot of food in our bodies all the time. So that fasting piece and clean eating is something that will sustain us for a lifetime. And it's just really about eating real food. Nothing out of the box that's got all the artificial additives and preservatives in it. That's what's hurting us, and it's causing us to be an obese country. So we have obesity clinics all over the country today for children. So we are making our children obese, and we don't need to do that. There's another way to do it. And it doesn't mean you can't do it because you're at a certain age. But because we don't know what to do, we're not helping our children. So the children are getting the sugar and the children are getting the floury treats, and that's been contaminated with sprays. And, we're just putting artificial things in our bodies, which we shouldn't.
So you mentioned the accountability piece, and as a certified health and wellness coach, which you are, what role do you play in ensuring that your clients are sort of bought into your recommendations that you're providing, or just bought into the health and wellness goals that they're working on? Or is it, do you play that role, or is it more of like a joint venture where you're kind of collaborative? How does it kind of work as a coach?
No, I do. That's a good question. And I do think that it's a collaboration. So you first have to decide, if you're going to go on this journey, that it's a number 10 of importance to you, right? You have to love yourself enough to want to keep yourself healthy. So it starts from within the process, within your own desire to do the best thing for your own body, with a belief that there is another way to make that first step. And most people do not take that first step. Okay. And it usually takes an aha moment for that to occur. So my oldest client was, she was my age. So 76 when she came in. And she sought me because she saw me on this little TV show that was it's a little local television show, Aging and Awesome. And I had mentioned my age. So she thought, oh, well, I'm in the same age, so maybe I can do this. But her aha moment was that a bucket list goal for her was she wanted to get on a horse, be on the beaches of Mexico, and ride down the coastline there. That was her goal. She got a chance to do it, and it took 2 men to hoist her onto the horse. She said that was the most humiliating experience of her life, and that was her aha moment, that she needed to do something to change her life. So hopefully it's not something as dramatic as that, or a heart attack, or something that really drives you, that's life-threatening or so darn embarrassing. But often it's the little things like older people wanting to be able to get down on the ground and play with the grandkids, or run after the puppy, or be able to take their suitcase and put it in the overhead bin or get out of their chair without asking for someone. So it has to be something that is important enough to push you to a point where you're willing to do something different. Because if you keep doing the same thing, that's that definition of insanity. You're going to get the same result if you keep doing the same thing. So something has to push you in that direction of wanting to have a better life. And it has to be a high enough, on a scale of 1 to 10, high enough level of intent for you to take that next step.
Yeah, I agree with you. You need that motivational factor for sure. I know we've mentioned a lot of different things about the importance of encouraging health and wellness as people get older. Why is it so important that we educate and encourage adults and older adults about the importance of incorporating these health and wellness practices into like an everyday routine, and not just a one-off, or not just like, yeah, I feel like doing it today because my friend's here, let's do it together, right? It needs to be an everyday routine.
So it's a lifestyle that we have to incorporate in order to live every day the way we want to live it. The dilemma that I see that we have as we go older is that our lifespan is going to be pushed forward because of all the medical advances. Everything in our body, all our body parts almost can be replaced. Okay, so we're going to be able to survive longer. The issue is the condition in which we're going to survive those extra years. So if we know that there can be an intervention, why wouldn't we want to take it? So there's another book that I really love by a researcher, and her name is Dr. Gottfried. And she's written the book, Sarah Gottfried, she's written the book Younger. And in Younger, what she talks about is the interventions or epigenetics. So we can say, well, I'm predisposed to this and this and this. And she's saying, forget that there's an intervention for almost every predisposition you can imagine. And she has a protocol for cancer. And what is it all around in each of her protocols? It's all around how you move, how you think, and what you put into your body.
Yeah, that's definitely a triple Venn diagram of how to be healthy for a long time, right? You're completely right. With modern medicine and the advances in it, people are living longer, they're battling diseases, but then their quality of life is not matching up to the longevity of their lives anymore, right? And that's kind of where we need to bridge that gap of, okay, you're going to live longer. That's kind of determined at this point with how much modern medicine has been advanced and continues to advance. But how are you going to live longer, right? Are you going to be bedridden? Are you going to be dependent on others? Or are you going to still have that quality of life and be able to be as independent as possible, even into your 90s, late 90s? And honestly, with my generation, I'm like, we're going to be in our hundreds. And like, I hope
Absolutely.
that we're healthier than what we've been surrounded with and what we see, right? But you're right. There needs to be that motivation factor too.
One thing I think that is a problem is that we do not see enough models for what it can be. So there is another researcher that talks about longevity. All of his research is all about how we're going to age. And he's a very famous Australian Dr. David Sinclair out of Harvard. And he's at Harvard Medical School, but he lectures all over the world. And he asked his audience, how many of you want to live to be 100? And two hands went up, and there were a couple thousand people in his audience. And then he asked his audience, how many of you would like to be 100, would like to live to be 100 if you could live in the same state of health you're in today? Almost every hand went up. Okay, so we fear or anticipate the decline that's going to happen to us. So if we have that fear, why not try all the interventions? And he talks a lot about intermittent fasting. He talks about hot, cold therapy. He talks a lot about light therapy. And of course, muscle development, skeletal muscle development. So he spends a lot of time on the kind of healthy weight that we need to maintain. And he connects overweight with lesser years of life and poorer quality of life as the years go on. So if we fear this, why not utilize an intervention? And there's so many, and they're not that hard.
Yeah. I think it's one of those things that you know, but you don't put into practice, right?
Right. And basically because we think it's too hard. So it is easy to just pick up something from the store that's pre-made, and it's so difficult. I tried to find a box of crackers. I start flipping the box and thinking, there isn't one carton on this whole expanse of shelf here that has really clean ingredients. It was so sad. I said, I'm going to stop looking. So there are, one of the most dangerous things, I think, is the protein bars. What do you think about the protein bars? All the protein bars are out there. Scary.
Yeah, there's some, I know there's some that list out their ingredients that are like 5 ingredients, and you read them and you're like, okay, yes, like you guys are doing this properly. My thing with protein bars is most of them are based on nuts, and I have a nut allergy, and so that doesn't help me. But I've not one to really eat protein bars much. I didn't even get into, honestly, like protein powder until a few years ago because I'm allergic to whey and casein proteins. And so I could never do like the traditional protein powders or protein drinks. And so but once pea protein came out, I was like, okay, this I can get along with
That's
and
good.
do. So I think, yeah, I agree with you. Even protein bars or food that's supposed to be helping you isn't necessarily always helping you. I'm really excited because they just opened a plant-based food market in Chicago that I really want to go see what it looks like and see what's in there because it's marketing as a plant-based food market. And so I want to know, like, okay, what's in here? Like, let's go look.
Absolutely great. So many people know that protein is important, and that's why it's such a seductive marketing strategy to put protein, 20 grams of protein, and we think, oh my gosh, 20 grams of protein. And then you look at the rest of the ingredients and you have done yourself in. The protein is not going to help you based on everything else that's in that particular product. And there are just hundreds of these on the market, and they are so slickly marketed, so slickly advertised that you think you would be getting something good. But like you said, there's some that have and they tell you, here are the 3 ingredients. Here are the 5 ingredients. There's nothing else in here. And it's not going to taste like a candy bar. Okay? So the protein bars, 98% of them are candy bars in disguise.
Yeah. And I think something you alluded to was this grand, it's not really pressure, but this grand understanding or misunderstanding that like we need all this protein. And that's how they market it, right? Like, especially I feel to women, it's like, you need protein. You need protein. And a lot of our protein is full of carbs too. And so it's like, you need to offset and understand what's giving you protein and how many carbs that's giving you too, right? It's kind of the bigger picture. I personally actually never really considered it until I have a primarily plant-based diet, and it's very like, okay, I'll swap out, all of my pastas for lentil pastas because it gives me protein, but it also gives me a lot of carbs. Like didn't really realize that at first, but kind of understanding nutrition is actually a big deal when it comes to health and wellness.
No, it's absolutely essential. And there's a lot of disagreement about protein. A lot of different studies that say, well, you don't need it. Yes, you do. Yes, you need more. I'm really following the research of Dr. Gabrielle Lyons. And what she says, and what is really in the fitness community, is that you need enough protein to be very close to the number of grams matching the body weight. So per pound per gram of protein. And that's an awful lot. But it does tell you that you need to get as much as possible. Now, we know as we age, as women, I'm not sure about men, but women for sure, we metabolize protein in a different way. So we do need more as opposed to less. And most women are getting, if they're dieting, and that's another thing, you can have too few calories or you're going to have too many calories. And so I have clients that really struggle with that because they are really taking too few calories to maintain a very slender body. But you could actually take in more calories because if you are utilizing your muscles, you're burning calories to a greater extent even after you finish that workout. Your body composition is going to change. You're not going to be skinny fat. If you limit the number of calories that you're intaking substantially and then you do your workout, you're not going to get the body composition that you want.
Yeah.
If that's important.
Yeah. Yeah. I think there's just so kind of going back to, it starts with when you're children, right? There's such poor nutritional education in our school systems. And even in college, unless you're in a field that requires you to learn nutrition, you're not really going to learn about it. And so it's not something that, unless you take the interest in or dedicate yourself to learning about it properly, our general community doesn't really know what they should be doing, right?
Yeah, no, it's a good point. What's in college dorms that, the quick fixes, a quick sugar fix. And that's even in dorms for interns, and of course, food often in hospitals is horrible, absolutely horrible. So we're not walking our talk even in the health industry in terms of how we are providing information for our hospital workers and our healthcare people to know, hey, this is what you should be doing. You should be walking the talk. Here you are working with people who need health information and assistance, and you are the most unhealthy person at the desk.
Yeah.
And we don't seem to put those two together.
Yeah. One of my biggest pet peeves is when there's healthcare providers like smoking right outside of the building. I'm like, come on.
That's pretty bad.
Well, moving into, it's a new year. What are some specific strategies that you have for the new year if our audience members want to improve their health this year? And I know New Year's resolutions are far and wide and often overrated, but, to start small, kind of what are some specific strategies you'd recommend?
Okay, so I love this question because New Year's resolutions usually peter out into the second month of the year.
Yeah.
So there's billions and billions of phantom gym memberships. Okay, so everybody goes in December and January and they sign up for their gym membership and then they vanish. Okay, so you don't want to be one of those fantasy or invisible memberships. You want to pick something that's doable, that is not too hard, okay? Something that you know that you can do. So it could be, and I would pick something that has to do with movement and something that has to do with nutrition. So it would be just one thing. So you could do, 10 squats a day. Okay, that could be your resolution. You could do 10 wall push-ups a day. Okay, so no equipment needed, just your body weight. You can do this. Okay, so you would pick something very small. Or if you have light weights around the house, now most of us have those light weights. They're in the closet, they're under the bed, they're in the garage. You need to get those out and put them someplace where we could do curls, right? So everybody knows how to do a curl. So that would be one thing easy in the area of movement. Okay. So when we make it too big, I'm going to go to the gym and I'm going to be there every day and I'm going to work out for an hour. No, it's not going to happen. We have to pick something that we can progressively move up to one step at a time. So that would be one thing in the movement area. Now let's move over to the nutrition area. So let's just evaluate. What are we doing? Are we getting those soft drinks? Are we drinking? Look, that could be eliminated, right? What's going on with sugar? What's going on with flour? And I would pick one, if it's something you're drinking, okay, and let's talk about alcohol. If that's every day, that's disastrous to our bodies. So there's a podcaster out of Stanford. His name is Huberman. He does a Huberman podcast. He spent an hour and a half talking about no judgment. You can drink, but here's what it does to your body. And it's devastating. So this idea that you can have one drink a day or two drinks for a woman or three drinks for a man, any drink, day after day after day, even if it's one, is too much. Okay. So if that's your pattern, if your pattern is 2 glasses, then make it 1 glass. If it's 1 glass, make it 1 glass every other day. So it's something that's small that you can do, but it's so beneficial. So if you're a sugarholic, what sugar can you take out of your meal plan? What flour can you take out? So if you are one that starts your morning with orange juice and a muffin, both of those should go, right? But try one of them, okay? So no orange juice and make the muffin yourself, okay? So if you make it yourself, you know what's in it. So use your almond flour, okay, bananas, and there you go, and an egg. Okay, so you can make something really pretty delicious with real food. And there's no preservatives, there's no artificial ingredients. So that's the way I would suggest starting, not a gym membership that you're never going to participate in, or maybe go once or twice, but something that you can do on your own that is a simple step, both in the nutrition area and the movement area, and then also believing that it can be done and you share it with someone that's going to help you.
Yeah, those are all great points. I find that eliminating things is always easier than adding things into your routine, right? And so, what you mentioned about the food, I think that's actually, I always say that's one of the easier spots to change, where you either eliminate something that you're eating that you shouldn't be eating or drinking something you shouldn't be drinking, and then replacing it with something that's a little healthier, right? So, in our household, we go through a whole lot of sparkling water, and I'm sure there's going to be research coming out at some point about, whatever's wrong with that. But it completely replaced our alcohol. We don't drink. And so it was a simple trade-off that we started back in January this year. And it was like, okay, every time everybody's drinking, every time we're with friends, we're just going to replace this with soda water. And that way you still have, because it's the social physical act of holding something in your hand, right? When people are hanging out. And so it was as simple as that. Okay, let's just replace what it is. We're still part of the culture. We're still doing the same activity. We're just replacing the drink. And so I always say that that's usually easier. And then, adding, kind of like you said, just pick one small thing to start working on.
Absolutely.
Do you have any experience with different cultures when it comes to this kind of stuff? I know you've done quite a few retreats, and you coach a lot of different women, and I'm not sure kind of what your cultural representation is across the board, but have you come across any culture specific considerations?
Well, my country of origin is Panama, and I have done some studies on, the state of Hispanic health in our country today. And if we look at the overall health of our country, it's not that good. It's not very good. It falls far below most industrialized countries. And then if you look at the Hispanic population, it falls below the overall population. So we're eating in an unhealthy way, definitely. My retreats really are on clean eating in a beautiful Latin culture. So I have either Costa Rica or Panama. My next one is coming up February 1st, 2024. And it will be centered on uplifting your fitness journey. So what should you be eating? How should you be exercising? What can you take away from this retreat when you go home? You will know the exercises, you will know what to eat, and you will have had a fabulous time. It's for just 6 women at a time. And it's that opportunity to get to know women you would never get a chance to meet. And you build friendships and you come away with an elevated view of how you will age and what your journey is going to be.
That sounds wonderful. What is one takeaway you'd like the audience to consider as it relates to health and wellness in your 50s and beyond?
I guess the first thing is it's never too late to begin, and it isn't as hard as you might think. Just take one small step and look for support.
That's excellent. Thank you, Dr. Maria Cristina, for this wonderful conversation in our joint passion of aging better together.
Absolutely my pleasure. Thank you so much.
If you would like to learn more about Dr. Maria Cristina and her services, please visit drmariacristina.com. You can also find her on LinkedIn as Dr. Maria Cristina Sheehan Health and Wellness, on Instagram under the handle @Sheehan Health and Wellness, and in her Facebook group for women only called Flourish with Age. Thank you, Dr. Maria Cristina.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for tuning in to Aging Together. This podcast is brought to you by Aging Together LLC, a private care consulting practice helping individuals and families age with a plan. If you found this episode of Aging Together valuable, we'd love your support in spreading the word. Your likes, shares, and reviews fuel our mission. Don't forget to rate and leave a review wherever you're listening. Your feedback matters. Until next time, take care.